had folks in Congress who've said they shouldn't pass this bill because it would give me a win. So they're thinking about the next election. Give me a win. Give me a break. That's why folks are fed up with Washington. This isn't about giving me a win. This isn't about giving Democrats or Republicans a win. It's about giving America a win.
That was President Obama this afternoon just outside of Dallas, again pushing Congress to pass his jobs bill. Along with some campaign-style rhetoric, we again heard the now familiar campaign-style slogan.
Pass this bill. Pass this bill. Pass this bill. Pass this bill. Let's pass this bill.
Along with the pass this bill refrain, the president did something different today in Texas. He didn't just talk about Republican opposition to his jobs plan in vague terms. His opponent wasn't just a sea of faceless Republican lawmakers on the other side of the aisle. He gave the GOP opposition a face and a name.
Yesterday, the Republican majority leader in Congress, Eric Cantor, said that right now he won't even let this jobs bill have a vote in the House of Representatives. This is what he said. I'd like Mr. Cantor to come down here to Dallas and explain what exactly in this jobs bill does he not believe in? What exactly is he opposed to? At least put this jobs bill up for a vote so that the entire country knows exactly where members of Congress stand.
President Obama no doubt focused his remarks on Cantor after the number 2 House Republican said yesterday the chamber would not vote on the president's bill in its entirety, saying the Americans Jobs Act was dead on arrival. And this morning, Congressman Cantor told reporters it's the president who has a problem reaching across the aisle.
The problem is the policies being promoted by this administration that are sending the signal that we're not open for business in America. So if the president would join us in trying to do some things that actually help people, that help create an environment for growth, I think we can all see a way to work together to actually produce a better future.
The Majority Leader's office also put out a statement today directly responding to the president's speech in Texas that called Cantor out by name. That statement read in part, President Obama needs to understand that his my way or the highway approach. I'm laughing because this is the guy, of course, who rallied the votes for not one Republican vote for the Recovery Act, that his my way or the highway approach simply isn't going to work in the House or the Democratic Senate, especially in light of his abysmal record on jobs. Serious problems deserve serious leadership, and the American people have gone without it for far too long. Republicans trying to work together despite our disagreements. Why isn't the president yada, yada, yada? All right. The president is still on the road tonight taking his message to supporters in St. Louis, and there's a report tonight from the Associated Press that Senate Democrats want to swap out some of the ways that President Obama proposed to pay for his jobs bill for a 5% tax surcharge on millionaires. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid predicted tonight that when the bill comes to the floor, almost all Democrats would get behind it. Joining me now, MSNBC political analyst Alex Wagner. Alex, am I wrong that Eric Cantor is a very unappealing politician?
Oh,
is that a loaded question?
To each his own, I would say. But Eric Cantor, I think there are, first of all, a lot of Americans that don't know who Eric Cantor is.
Yes, let me ground this in some data. We looked this up because I thought it was weird that they were going after Eric Cantor for precisely this reason. A CNN poll in July shows only that 46% of Americans have never even heard of him.
Right. And I think, given that, there are some question marks around the president's strategy to single out Eric Cantor by name. This is, after all, the commander-in-chief. This is the president of the United States, and talking about someone who half the country has never heard of as being the sort of the log in the middle of the road preventing a huge sort of signature piece of legislation from passing. And I think, obviously this is the White House on the offense. We've seen a very sharp pivot in the last few weeks. They obviously feel like they are ready to name names and kick butt.
Here's what I think is interesting is that, the Republicans did the same thing with Nancy Pelosi, who I think in the beginning a lot of Americans had never heard of either. I mean, Americans are not like super up on who is necessarily running things in Congress.
Right.
And they managed to, increase Pelosi's name recognition by a tremendous amount and just destroy her approval rating. I mean, by the time the midterms rolled around, her approval rating was like 10, 12% because every single district, every swing district in the country had an anti-Nancy Pelosi ad. And I wonder if we're seeing the early sort of part of a Cantor strategy of that nature.
Yeah, I guess, except that you have many to choose from. And if I were in the White House, you could also look down you could see, John Boehner, someone they've singled out before. Mitch McConnell has had his sort of day in the sun. I think that there is some, hesitation on the part of the left in terms of the strategy, because it doesn't denigrate necessarily the office of president, but I do think some people think, look, he should be bigger than this. And there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of frustration.
You're saying this is punching down.
Yeah, it's playing in the sandbox. I mean,
But don't you have to punch? If you're the president of the United States, there's nowhere to punch but down, right?
Well, and certainly this is a White House that has had its fair share of frustrations and aggravations, and they feel like, come on, guys. And I think the rhetoric of, if the president would just stop his my way or the highway approach, is endlessly frustrating. I mean, it is ludicrous. I mean, we're talking about payroll tax cuts here. This is the party of tax cuts, and now they have a problem with it. Right. But I do think it speaks to a certain frustration and almost a knee-jerk reaction that I think in some ways may not seem presidential to some Americans who don't really understand the dynamics of what's going on in Congress.
They've been going back and forth. Of course, the problem the president faces on the American Jobs Act, first and foremost, before you get to Republican opposition in the House, is the fact that they could not unite Democrats in the Senate around it. You had Mary Landrieu talking about, we shouldn't go after the oil companies. You had Senator Webb from Virginia also sort of casting aspersions on it. It now looks like, as I just noted before, Harry Reid has managed to sort of unify the caucus around a surcharge on millionaires.
A Buffett surcharge.
A Buffett surcharge. We should just call it Buffett. Everything is a Buffett rule.
Just begin it with Buffett and we'll swallow it.
Do you think that's a good play?
Look, I think he has to do whatever he has to do. I think there was a certain amount of, not embarrassment, but an uncomfortable moment today where Obama is in Texas saying, let's go to Congress, let's have a vote on this. And McConnell's in the Senate saying, all right, let's have a vote on it, Harry Reid. And Harry Reid has to kind of double down and say, well, not right now, but later. And it sort of muddies the message. And I think, speaks to a caucus that is, if not in disarray, there's just a lot of people are unsure, I think, as to what they want to do with the Jobs Act and sort of where the president is and how they need to play themselves against him.
What's interesting, right, is that if you go, there's a really good Jason Zengerle piece in the New York Magazine about Eric Cantor. Mm-hmm. And one of the points that he makes in that is he talks about Cantor sort of being the mastermind behind Republican unity in opposition to the Recovery Act, which at the time, this was 8 days after the president was elected with this huge electoral majority, was sort of shocking, right? Mm-hmm. It was a sort of shocking. And in some ways, the lesson you learn from that is that unity confers its own advantages, right? Which is that if the Democrats would unify around this bill, that produces sort of increasing gains politically, which they seem incapable of actually understanding.
Yeah, but I think that that's a testament to the weakened power of the president right now. I mean, there's some sense there's blood in the water, and that going against the president, or at least sort of hedging your bets, is not necessarily a bad thing. And again, look, Mary Landrieu speaking about her own backyard, oil and gas. She's going to try, she's got to worry about her.
She actually has an oil derrick in her backyard.
Yes, she does.
This
it's humongous.
Yes. Alex Wagner,
thanks,
MSNBC political analyst. Hey, great to see you.
Always.